Hi everyone, I'm Wilson Wong, and I'm the owner of the podcast, The Wong Way, Not the Wrong Way. And I'm also the founder of Modern People Solutions, where we connect employers to great employees and also create HR solutions at work. For anyone who hasn't listened to our podcast before, or if you haven't watched our first episode, what we're trying to essentially do is create a community of trusted business professionals where they can share some best practices and tips, and you can learn a lot of great information from them. And today it's my pleasure to introduce to you Arlen with the Agribusiness Mindset.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Yourself?
Good, pretty good. You bet. Yeah, it's good to be here.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, it's our pleasure to have you on the podcast.
You bet.
Yeah, Arlen, obviously I know you fairly well, but for those who don't know you as well as I do, maybe if you could share with us, a little bit about what the Agribusiness Mindset does.
Absolutely. So Agribusiness Mindset is a platform that teaches leaders and managers how to be three things. So empowered and trust and be curious. So those three things, they are the essential ground rules for being an effective leader and focusing on that.
Yeah, I would say that sometimes people aren't curious enough and they don't ask enough questions because sometimes they might not feel comfortable enough. And what would you say, is different about the agribusiness mindset that kind of sets you apart or that kind of differentiates you?
So there's a lot of leadership tools, a lot of leadership workshops out there. And one of the biggest things that I focus on is the leader or the manager. So for the leader working obviously on the business, the manager working in the business, and really focusing on those two aspects and mentoring them in that format and really empowering them to be the best that they can be and to learn and grow. And that's a never ending thing, but yeah. Get them started in that. Absolutely. So focusing on the leader or the manager and then the team. So it's kind of a little bit different that way.
Oh, perfect. And what got you started? Like what made you decide to start, the agribusiness mindset and, tell us a little bit about your background.
So I have 18 plus years in the ag equipment retail. So selling equipment, big, large equipment, and really enjoyed that. It was good. And then a few years also in the wholesale end. So selling to dealers, taking more of a leadership role. And that was exciting. That was a good thing for my career and it helped that. And really, then spending a couple of years going through some leadership training, some mentorship and business coaching, and really working through that and being empowered through that I wanted to share. And one of the things that came about is really realizing and comprehending that a lot of leaders and managers are actually just put in those positions just because of their body and there wasn't much choice there or whatever, or somebody thought they had good leadership skills, but they're not really, it's not their forte. And so really working with those people to empower them and to really create a more well-rounded leader that can be intentional for their team. Absolutely.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, especially when you have the industry experience and, you can kind of talk farm with everyone. So
Exactly.
Yeah. Perfect. And, given kind of your experience with what you do, what would you say are the top 3 challenges that you've kind of noticed for business?
Absolutely. So everybody thinks about challenges as compensation related, and that's why everybody leaves. But the reality at the very top of the list would be trust with their leader, whoever that is, a manager, leader, doesn't matter. And it comes down to the trust. So it's a lack of trust and a breakdown in trust. And the second thing would be also the culture. So the culture has gone bad and people are just angry and upset and bickering all the time. There's a whole lot of chatter going on. That's the second thing. And then down near the bottom of the list would absolutely be the compensation, because that's the straw that broke the camel's back, pretty say. But so I really see that being the trust is the first thing that happens in the most critical piece. And so, yeah.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, and I've done a lot of exit surveys and employee surveys in general, and I would say some of the items you mentioned really resonate too, based on the data I've collected. So
yeah, absolutely.
Right, and for the next part for what is the Wong Way. So for anyone who hasn't listened to our podcast before or isn't familiar with our tagline is what is the Wong Way, which is basically best practices and actionable strategies that business professionals can learn from. So Arlen, what is the Wong Way?
So there's a couple of things that I start out with my leaders that I'm coaching and mentoring. And it surrounds around, the first thing is journaling. So we establish that connection between the brain and the pen, essentially, and really focusing on some key things when focusing on themselves, spending time in the quiet, alone, writing down their thoughts and strategies for the day or for the day previous. And I found that to be very, very effective in my day-to-day. And I spend half an hour journaling in the morning. And part of that is it just quietly sitting, gathering my thoughts together in quiet and just calm. So that's the first thing. Second thing is what I call the walk away. I've kind of adopted that as my own feel. And this is the second portfolio that we go into, is really realizing, recognizing that the emotion is not serving anybody in the situation. And so removing yourself from that situation and then coming back to it and really establishing more of a neutral perspective on that situation. And those two things, so from a centered perspective of journaling to that grounding of recognizing the situation and walking away and coming back into it. Those are two key takeaways that I mentor through and work through when I'm working with leaders and managers. So
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much, Arlen.
You bet.
So again, today we have Arlen with us with the Agribusiness Mindset. So for anyone who is looking for agribusiness leadership coaching and you want to empower your leaders and get better results, I'd highly recommend to reach out to him. And for people who are looking to gain more exposure for their business with some great business tips they'd like to share, we work with a lot of speakers in the heavy equipment industry, so in agriculture, construction, and even professional practices. So it's a great opportunity to gain more exposure if you're in those industries and you have some tips you'd like to share. And for our audience, we hope you learned some valuable tips today from Arlen. And at the end, as Arlen mentioned, we'll also have a link where you can download his journaling techniques as well too. So that's all for our podcast today, and thanks for joining us.